Good morning. How we doing today? My name is James Sweeney, aka Split Suit. Welcome back to another video. And today we're going to answer a question sent in by Toby, and Toby asked the following. How would you approach really low buy-in tournaments? In particular, ones where the blinds double every 20 minutes. I seem to be carded a lot and get blinded out very quickly, which gets very annoying. So before we get into the strategy part of this, the first place I'd start with is, should we really be playing these events in the first place? Right, the structure is really fast, more of a turbo, and especially if you're doing this in a live environment where you're getting so few hands per hour as is, this can be really brutal. And if you mix bad structure with bad rake, this can be really bad. So when I hear low buy-in, really quick structure tournament, what I'm thinking is a typical live event, right? One of those real quick one-day things where they're just trying to get people into the casino, into the card room, and then they're trying to get the tournament over with as quickly as possible. And these are usually like $65 events or $135 events, something like that. And I would just suggest avoiding these. Bad rake plus bad structure equals just avoid them. You can do better things with your time. You can make a better hourly elsewhere. And the top side on these is usually pretty darn low, and the variance is going to be pretty excruciating. So I think you can do better things with your time. And again, especially if the rake is really bad, I would suggest avoiding these at all costs. But if you do decide to play this event, then there are two things you 100% have to know. One, your push-fold ranges, and then two, your call versus shove ranges. Because if you think about it, with a structure like this, with such a brutal turbo, outside of levels 1 and 2, you're probably going to be talking about 15 big blinds, 12 big blinds, 10 big blinds, or even smaller stack sizes most of the time. So because of that, it's all pre-flop decisions, right? You're really not going to be making post-flop decisions. It's pre-flop. Do I commit? Do I not commit? Do I make this shove? Do I not make this shove? Do I call this? Do I not call this? It's going to be very mathematical and basic. And if you know your ranges really well, you have no problem. You're still going to incur a lot of variance, but it won't be as much of a problem. If you don't know these ranges, then you're going to rely too much on hitting big hands, and as we all know, that's not going to happen too often. And with such a brutal structure, we can't just sit around waiting for monsters to creep up, because they won't creep around often enough. So keep this kind of stuff in mind. There are range charts for this stuff all over the internet if you look for them, but if you're going to go the step further, and the more you're going to play these, the more I suggest you do this, you can use a tool like ICMizer or Hold'em Resources Calculator, and you can start messing around with these things and understanding what good ranges look like. Or if you're looking for a tool that you can train with on the go, that's called Snapshove. Definitely suggest checking that out as well. You can play with it on your phone and just kind of run through some reps, really make sure you're practicing this stuff, and make sure you know your ranges very well. Because again, this is super mathematical, and honestly, it's more about memorizing these kind of ranges at that stack depth than anything else. You're not going to have really advanced above the rim kind of play like you would with deeper stack sizes or in more interesting scenarios. This is just a very basic kind of tournament, and knowing these ranges is going to give you a leg up against people that don't know them. But if everyone knows them, then again, is this really the best event to play? Now, even with all that said, there could still be some situations where you could do some more creative stuff, right? Maybe you could min-raise steal instead of just shoving as a steal. Maybe you could open limp a monster instead of open shoving that monster. So it's not to say that there aren't creative options available and optimizing lines available, but you want to know your default lines and ranges for sure, and then understand what goes into a good creative deviation, right? Be that a smaller steal size with air, be that playing monsters in a different way, right? Understand what goes into those spots. That way you can at least identify them in real time. It's not to say they're going to come up often or a ton, or they're going to be massive win rate changers, but at the end of the day, at least if you're looking for good spots, you know what goes into a good spot, then you can optimize further rather than just being purely on the chart. But again, more often than not at this stack depth, there's not going to be a ton of room for creative play. I just wanted to throw it out there so you don't think that creative play has no place whatsoever. It does. It'll just be a little bit more difficult to find these spots as you go throughout your tournament. So with all that said, if you are going to end up playing events like this, whether it's regularly or just every so often, definitely make sure to check out my quiz, splitsuit.com/push to take it. It will test your push fold ability, make sure you understand when to shove it, when not to shove it, and again, help you start understanding and developing that intuition. And as always, there is an answer key, and a very nerdy one at that. So hopefully that will help a lot. Again, whether you're playing turbos like this or just regular tournaments, it's very helpful to have these push-fold ranges totally memorized and understood, and this will be a great way to test your skills. So same as always, if you have any comments or questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. Toby, thank you so much for the question, and hopefully this helps. And if you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing, I would massively appreciate that too. Otherwise, thank you so much for hanging out today, guys, and as always, good luck out there and happy grinding. It's not to say that you can't generate an edge, but is it going to be the best waste?